Welcome to the Hard Money Show, where we talk about real estate, home loans, and media. It is a good day when we can get on the podcast and talk about something that I think is on everybody's mind, that is extremely relevant, and I think a very hot topic. I know that this has been coming up a lot, and it's funny because I was listening to, watching TikTok. I was driving, so I was listening to TikToks, but I was listening to TikTok, and this TikTok came up, and man, did it make me mad. You know, as a person who, went to college and got degrees, I value my education. I value what those, what that experience was for me. I value what I got out of it, and I value what skill sets it taught me. And I think that a lot of people are starting to say that college degrees are worthless, that, they're just a money scheme, for universities to take your wealth, and they set you back. And I can't say that I fully agree with that. I think that there's definitely an argument to be made that there's still value in the university, and there's still value in that education. Now, obviously, some degrees are more valuable than other degrees. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, things like that hold high value and high worth right out of university. But it's really interesting. So I'm going to play this. I want you guys to take a listen, and we'll jump back in after.
If I were hiring someone for a position today, I would much rather hire someone who did not go to college. Why?
No shot.
100%.
Absolutely
and I do it all
not.
the time. And the reason is that the people who go to college go through 4 years, and every single one of them talks and thinks and acts like a robot.
If I'm hiring somebody and I've got two equivalent candidates in front of me, and I've got a guy that was able to get his 4-year degree, that speaks volumes. I know that you can be on time. I know that you can show up every day and do what's assigned to you. I know that you have the ability to finish something. That's a hugely important thing versus somebody that shows up with no degree. If you don't have a degree, and you can make it without a degree, but you need a damn good portfolio to do that. And that is true advice for anybody working in any field. The college degree is the number one grower of wealth inequality in the United States, because people with college degrees are out earning everybody else so much.
Watch what happens in the next 10 years with college degree.
It's so important. Even other conservative-esque people like Jordan Peterson talk about, how do we have a society where it functions when the IQ requirements for performing well in society are becoming higher and higher and higher and higher.
If I were hiring someone for
So, I think this is really, for me, it really hit a point. Now, keep in mind, I did not grow up in a traditional, life. I grew up in foster care. And so going to university is already a anomaly in kind of the group I grew up in. I think I was just speaking to somebody who works at the foster care agency that I actually lived at, and they were saying that 50% of youth that graduate out of the foster care system within the first year are I believe they were saying they're either incarcerated or homeless. So the statistics are staggering, right? And so maybe I'm coming from a place of where I feel like, this is a grand achievement for me, and, I've overcome the odds and things like that. But when this lady is talking about the value of an education, how she would just hire somebody else, she doesn't care that they have a university degree, I think it's completely ridiculous. To understand, the experience of the university, and I think a lot of people think that, it's just people wasting time and having fun. And granted, that is a lot of what it is, because if you have a full course load and you're not taking an extremely demanding degree, there is a lot of downtime, and that can be a really great experience, and I think a university in a lot of ways can be an opportunity to network, to build, a community around yourself and things like that. And I definitely did that. But for me, going to, I went to Sac State here in Sacramento, and then I went and got my master's at the University of Pacific. And so while I did that, I typically worked 2 to 3 jobs at a time. I had my first job when I was 15. I was a lifeguard and a swim instructor. I had my first management job running the pool when I was 18. And then when I moved to Sacramento, a short period of time where I didn't work, and then I needed to work, and I worked, and I went to school, and I did that for a very long time until, I finished my master's degree. And so originally, when I went into university, I was a kinesiology major. That was kind of my goal. I wanted to get my PhD and train professional athletes. And I can say with 100% certainty that degree was a lot more difficult, a lot more demanding than what I actually ended up graduating with, which was a degree in communication with an emphasis in organizational communication. And so I can say from both sides, like, yes, there are degrees that are more demanding. There are these ones, but to say that there's no value or that it's irrelevant, or even that people that go to university are robotic and that they don't have a mind for themselves and they don't have work ethic is completely ridiculous and completely off point. And I think that we really need to take a look at society. We need to take a look at what we value. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today was I look at this as how do, there's people that you see coming into the real estate industry or in the real estate industry who don't have degrees. And there's people that do have degrees. And should that matter? Does it matter? Does it make a difference? Now, I haven't done a survey. I haven't seen any statistics on this. This is just a feeling and from what I've seen, because typically people will have this information available when, presenting who they are on their website or, some sort of portfolio or things like that, their education. And so I think that it is, out there, but I think, and this is how I feel, is that when you have a college degree, it teaches you skill sets that are completely advantageous to real estate. And what I mean by that is that the biggest mistake that I see in real estate is follow through. A lot of people have an extremely difficult time with following through with the things they need to do to be successful in this industry. And the one thing that you can almost guarantee that a person that has a college degree does have is follow through, because they just spent the last 3 to 5 years following through, completing their work, showing up to classes, passing exams, and getting work done. And to me, that's an extremely valuable skill set to feel extremely confident that someone's going to be doing. Now, I understand there's always outliers. I understand that people who don't go to college can still have extremely good follow through. But what I'm saying is these are the skill sets that can come out of being in a university. Another one is I typically find that people that did go to university are a little more social, a little more personable. Because they are around people, because they had to interact with people, they know how to work in small groups a little bit better. They know how to do interpersonal. They know how to do public speaking a bit better. All of these things are extremely valuable when talking about how do we be successful in real estate, because you're going to do these on a day-to-day basis. You're going to talk to other realtors. You're going to, if you're doing things right, you're going to talk in small group settings. Even if you get big enough, you might do public speaking events and things like that. And so all of these things you'll have an opportunity to do when you're in a university, versus if you go straight into work, it's very unlikely that you're learning or reinforcing skill sets like this. Another thing that I think that is extremely valuable, that being in a university changes the way that you think about things. And I explained this to a mentee that I had one time, is when you're in high school, I believe that education is teaching you how to do things, right? How is this done? And when you go to university, a lot more of it is why. Why are things happening? Why do we need to do it this way? And that why opens up the way that you view the world, right? And having a larger world view, and also you because of the nature of that American education system, we do a lot of general ed stuff. So you touch on a lot more things. And what I think it really does is it opens up this desire to continue to gain education. And this is an extremely invaluable skill set, because when it comes to real estate and home loans, there's a lot of things to learn. There's a lot of things that you can do to continue to make yourself better, but that'll never happen if you don't continue to educate yourself, right? And so I do feel that people that go to university, they often have this skill set built in where they're like, okay, I want to continue to learn. And they feel like I can continue to learn because I've already done this before, right? And I can attest to this, and I have a lot of friends who didn't go to universities, and I'm not saying that I'm smarter than them or that I'm more successful than them, because that's not necessarily the case at all. What I am saying is that often, more times than not, I am continuing to learn and grow and become more educated, and they're not. And that's, I think, simply because they've set into their career, they're doing what they're doing, they don't really need to learn anymore. And, now they're kind of living their lives. They have their families and things like that. And that's wonderful if that's the life you want. But if you want to be a realtor, if you want to be in the real estate industry in any way, shape, or form, that facet, you have to continue to learn. You have to have a desire for education. And I think this is so extremely valuable. And I think this is one of the things that come out of continuing education. I hate to think that, the time that I spent learning organizational communication and international communication, where I understand the benefits of the communication flow within an organization, and getting my master's in media and public relations, holds no value to somebody that my education is just as good as somebody who started a TikTok and, they do dances on TikTok, and that person is just as valuable as I am as it pertains to the media space. To me, that's hurtful to me. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe they are more valuable than me. I don't know. I don't know how they would measure that. I don't know, what would be I guess monetary would probably always be what they would come back to. But ultimately, for me, I'm like, well, I have the theoretical understanding. I have the know and wherewithal. I have the follow through, and I have the practical experience. Now, keep in mind, I understand the argument where people say, well, if you went to college and you didn't work at all, I can totally understand where it'd be like, well, we're a little worried because we don't know, can you meet these business deadlines, which are a little bit quicker, faster than, in university, or are you going to actually be able to do the work, or is it all theoretical? I totally understand that hesitation, but I think most people need to work when they're in school. And I always felt like, although I wish I would have had more opportunity for leisure when I was younger, I always felt like, well, if the world is going in a way where education is valued and work experience is a necessity, which is essentially what it felt like, because when you're looking to apply for jobs, they were saying, well, you need a college degree and you need 3 years of experience or 4 years of experience. And I always thought, well, how am I supposed to have that if I am going to school? And luckily for me, I've been working since I was 15. So I always had experience. I always had education. I always had, work knowledge. And so for me, I felt lucky and I felt advantageous, even though I was kind of forced to have to work out of pure necessity. But I think that's ultimately, the best of both worlds, being able to work and gain that experience on the practical side and be able to apply. Now, for me, I've been very lucky in the way that my education was ahead of the curve, because as I was getting my education, the internet, when I was younger, high school, things like that, there's internet, cell phones just kind of like really came onto the scenes when I was in high school. I remember getting my first phone, the Razor phone, when I was, I think, maybe a senior in high school or something like that. And so social media, right, Facebook, really when I was in college, and then, Instagram started to come and everything started to come. So my education was preceding the true development and monetization of these social media platforms. And so I was able to very early, before a lot of people approach this industry from that educational standpoint, and look at the development of these platforms and say, how do we make money off them, or how do we develop brands on these, or how do we use these for marketing and advertising? This was really before even Facebook and Instagram, TikTok started having the ability to advertise on there and having, now it's so integrated into the platform. They have these, separate business platforms that you can do this on. But I was already thinking about that as they were starting to come up. And I was only really able to do that because of the education I had. And what it allowed me to do is it allowed me to step into almost every single business that I was ever in. And even though I wasn't necessarily hired to do marketing there or do ads or whatever it was, I was always the person that ended up being, to do that. And that was extremely valuable for me because I was ahead of, other people that were doing this in the industry, and I was getting to learn practically while applying my education. And that really made a huge difference for me. And it's what allowed me to go into consulting, was what allowed me to work with independent businesses and try to help them build their brands. And ultimately what's helping me now, running our media division and helping our realtors learn how to brand correctly, how to use these platforms effectively, and how to be out there and make money in the real world with these platforms. Now, I don't know, maybe somebody coming up now who's native to these platforms are going to be able to do just as good a job as me. I don't know. Is it important that they know groundswell? This is a prominent thing that you study, in the master's program. I don't know if it is, right? I know it. I don't know if they need to know it necessarily, but what I will say is where I'm currently at, the education that I have, I think it is value. So I think that it's unfair to totally dismiss people that have, a college degree. I think it's important to, evaluate it fairly, because it does feel almost like people are now kind of going the opposite way and they're just saying, oh, you have a college degree, no, I don't want to hire you. And I've seen this with MBAs, right? There's this huge attack on MBA people now that, and I know, I believe Elon Musk was talking about this and how he doesn't want to hire MBAs because the same sort of mentality that their education is robotic, and that's so disheartening to think that we are penalizing individuals for being, taking that extra step, gaining that education, and wanting to be successful, and wanting to understand what's going on behind the scenes. And I think what needs to happen is the education needs to stay, right? I don't think that needs to go anywhere. I think the practical implication of what's happening needs to really be there. And there needs to be more opportunity to approach that while you're in school. I don't know, maybe I know that, I had to do I had to do a report. I did it on CalPERS, in their investment office, and the way that their communication flowed and how that affected their profitability, just on how I saw it. So for me, that was nice, but I think there needs to be a way for people to better integrate into the workforce, while they're in university. That way you can implement both of them. And I think that's the best thing for our society as a whole. But I just look at, I look at the world that we're in. We're trying to build the real estate industry. We're trying to make career realtors. And I never want to say that I would prefer to hire a realtor who has a college degree and has their real estate license, because I don't necessarily think that that's the strongest indicator for being successful in this industry. But I will say that if somebody did come and they had a college degree, I would feel a little more comfortable that they're going to get their work done, and that I'm not going to have to babysit them and hold their hand, that they're going to be self-motivated, because not only did they get a college degree, but they went out of their way to get their real estate license as well, right? And so to me, that is a strong indicator that they're going to be, maybe a little more successful, a little more driven. They're going to have that follow through, because you have to understand, in real estate, it can take years for people to really have success in this industry. And that's not uncommon, and not an uncommon feeling as being in college and feeling man, I still got another year, still got 3 years. I just started this process, so much to go, right? You're not uncomfortable in that space of being able to grow, and understanding that it takes time to be successful, where a lot of people are now kind of in this mindset of instant gratification, and some people get it in real estate, but not very many. And this isn't, that's why the statistics are staggering for the amount of people that don't do real estate after their first year, and especially the people that don't renew their licenses after their 4 years. I want to say it's like an 80% drop off. And that's just because people don't know how to stick it out. They don't understand that, every day is a new day. And I think that possibly people who, went to school. Now, again, I am a bit biased because I did go to college, but keep in mind that, I did this from nothing, right? I didn't have anybody above me that told me I should go to college. I didn't really have anybody to look, parents that went to college. I didn't have any like older friends that nothing really. I did have a couple mentors who, said this is probably a good thing for you to do. And there's some benefits from being in foster care and going to college and things like that. But I just knew that I liked to learn and that I wanted to do that. And I wasn't ready to jump at anything. And granted, at the time, I wanted to be a professional trainer. And so that kind of got me in that direction. But I decided to stay, decided to switch. I decided to go back to school. And continue my education. And I believe that I will continue, and hopefully, in maybe my late 30s or early 40s, I'll go and I'll get a PhD. But it's such an interesting take. And so I'd love to hear kind of what you guys think. Do you think it matters? Do you think it not matters? What are the benefits? What are not the benefits? Granted, can you make a lot more money just not going to college? Yeah, you can, because if you started, instead of going to college and you just got into real estate when you're 18, by the time you're 21, you would be graduating. You probably would be an extremely high earner. And so there's definitely some benefit of, starting early. But on the other side, a lot of the people that I work with, I went to school with, right? A lot of the people that I network, I went to school with. A lot of the people that I make these genuine impacts with, I went to school with. And so there's kind of this other flip side where real estate really is a social a game as much as it is, a mental game. And so there's definitely something to be understood and considered on that side, right? I have alumni associations that I'm part of and that I can go to and network in, both at the University of Pacific and both at Sac State, as well as organizations that I'm in, alumni associations. And so for me, I have my foot in the door where I'm able to go in, and maybe I ain't necessarily trying to pull business from there, but maybe I want to make a connection, and maybe people there can get me in the door where, if you didn't do that stuff, it can be a little more difficult. And so definitely something to consider. I personally, I'm proud of what I've done. I'm proud of what I have. I do think that it makes me much more competitive in the market. I believe that having my 2 degrees makes me that much better than the people that I'm competing with in this market. But there's a lot more to be done on that front. So definitely let me know what you guys think. This is a short podcast today, a little controversial, but hopefully entertaining. Thank you guys very much. As always, this is the Hard Money Show, where we talk about real estate, home loans, and media. You guys have a great day.